All right, here we are again at my tooling bench, and today we're going to talk briefly about casing. What is casing? What isn't casing? Casing, as far as I can determine, is an old term that was derived by old saddle makers. And casing basically is talking about the box that the leather is put into, um, preparing it to be tooled. The box is a airtight box that uh, you induce a lot of moisture into the atmosphere inside the box, and the leather is allowed to absorb that humidity very slowly so that it impregnates all the fibers inside of the piece of leather that you're working on. Wetting a piece of leather, saturating it, is not casing. Uh, just wetting the leather and tooling is not casing. Uh, for it to be truly cased, all of the fibers throughout the thickness of the leather should be very close to the same amount of moisture throughout. And this can only be achieved in a few different ways. Some different ways vary a little bit, but it all results in pretty much the same type of situation. Uh, a casing box is just an airtight box that you take a piece of leather that you have dampened lightly on the surface of the leather, and it goes into the box. And the box, there is a bowl that has a little bit of water in it and a sponge. And the sponge is just there to help aerosolize the moisture that's in the bowl into the atmosphere of the box. That way, the piece of leather, as it sits inside this box, can absorb the moisture inside of the atmosphere there. And that way, when you take the piece of leather out, the piece is ready to tool, and you can tool a much more uniform depth and with much more precision that way. Plus, it has a tendency to stay in the fibers a lot longer that way. Uh, if you just take and saturate a piece of leather with water through hydraulic action, if you start tooling it when it's too wet, what happens is you actually tear the fibers inside of the leather, which is never a good thing. Uh, this piece here is a piece that's been sitting on my bench for almost a week and a half to 2 weeks now, and I'm doing two different things here. If I'm only going to be leaving the piece for 2 or 3, 4 days, I'll just use the glass on top. I've used that procedure for years and years, and it works great. All you do is you just dampen the piece of leather like you normally would. Let it come back to almost normal tooling color, and then you put the piece of glass on top of it. And what happens is that seals in the moisture inside of the surface, and the only place that's able to be exposed to the atmosphere is the edges. So every few days you'll need to come and just dampen the edges and then put the glass back on it. And you can keep it that way for, well, I've actually kept it that way for as much as a couple weeks. And it still tools perfect when you get done. Now, I knew that this piece here was going to be sitting for an extended period of time, so I went ahead and I put it in a sealed plastic bag. Also, I use the type of plastic bags that have the double zipper type thing, like this. I just think that they seal better and they're a lot more airtight. And if you notice, when it comes out, it is pristine. It's ready to tool right now. There's no waiting involved. That's another nice thing about when you have a piece that's cased, is that when you take it out, it's ready to go. You don't have to wait for a wetted area to dry out before you can tool it. And I'll show you in a couple places here how well this tools after it's been cased like this. And you'll notice that we'll get a really nice burnish, tooling burnish that goes along with this. That's a good indication as to moisture content. And you can see that it tools really nicely. And this is a piece that's been sitting for somewhere around a week and a half to 2 weeks. And you can see how nice that tools. And we'll go to a larger stamp so you can see what it is with a larger stamp. Turn it here so you can see it a little bit better. But you can see that it tools just fine without having to add any kind of moisture to it, because all the moisture you need is already inside the fibers of the leather. So this is a really simple process. I'm living here in Alabama now, but we still have lots of humidity in the air. And you notice that even after that amount of time, that there's no mold or mildew or any kind of ugly things going on there. As long as it's sealed where no air can get to it, it really can't develop. The only time that mold and moisture or mold and mildew type things can actually develop is if there's air that it can get to so that it can propagate. But that's a simple process. It works. So give it a try. If you don't want to use a casing box, the plastic bag or the glass procedure work great. I've used the glass procedure for years and years, and it works really great. One thing that I always stress on is preparing the back so that it won't stretch. In that you can see that even after a week and a half, 2 weeks, it's still permanently attached. It's not coming off. So don't have to worry about that whatsoever. So give it a try, see what you think, and let me know how it works for you. Thank you.